Thank you for the opportunity to present on behalf of the Australian Honeybee Industry Council at your Tokyo Field Day. I know the Tokyo Field Day has been going for a long time, and being virtual now is a little bit different to being able to get together and talk to all your friends. So in AHBIC, as we say, we are the peak body supporting a small industry, and our industry has a very big impact. So who are the members of AHBIC? We have the Queensland Beekeepers Association, the New South Wales Apiarist Association, the Victorian Apiarist Association, the Tasmanian Beekeepers Association, South Australian Apiarist Association, Bee Industry Council of Western Australia, the Honey Packers and Marketers Association of Australia, the National Council of Crop Pollinators, the Australian Queen Bee Breeders Association, and the Amateur Beekeepers Association of New South Wales. So as you can see, they're all the peak bodies of the beekeeping industry in Australia. We sort of don't have individual members as such. The members are the peak bodies. So what does AHBIC do? AHBIC represents the beekeeping industry at the national level. And AHBIC works hard on the biosecurity area to keep exotic diseases and pests out of Australia. That's one of our primary reasons there. And we're a source of information for Australian beekeepers. So what issues are around at the moment that affects us? To help us in these issues, we have several subcommittees. We have a resources subcommittee because it looks at the resources Australia-wide, not just in a particular state, but they can help out. And we know that resources is probably the number one issue for beekeepers in Australia. If we don't have resources, then we don't have a beekeeping industry the way we know it. Biosecurity, as we all know, things like Varroa are not present here in Australia. We have had the eradication program that got rid of it in Townsville. And so we keep fighting very hard to keep Varroa out of Australia. And there's a few others like tracheal mites, the Tropholeoaps mite. We don't want them here. Asian bees from other parts of Asia, or the Africanized bee, we don't want them here either. So biosecurity is one area where our subcommittees work hard. We have a producer contingency fund, and that is in charge of a money that was left over from the old Federal Council of Australian Apiarists Association days when they had a contingency fund there, and that is available to be used by industry. But you have to have an application that goes there to work on that. Education is probably a very important part for our industry, particularly in training up trainees for commercial beekeepers, but even just for educating anyone who wants to know a bit more about beekeeping. We have the Congress 2022 committee, so we have Congress coming up next year in Sydney at Rosehill in June. So it'll be a very important part, and planning is well underway for that through our subcommittee. And we have a Queen Bee and Importation subcommittee. As you would know, that queen bees can't be imported straight to the beekeeper in Australia. They have to go into a quarantine situation where several checks are made of their bees and the escorts that come in to make sure they haven't got any diseases or pests with them. And then only the grafted larvae are available to the person importing, and they take them away and rear them up as queen bees. So they're the subcommittees that look after some of the issues that we have within our industry. And of course, we're looking at a national newsletter at the moment. Not sure how that one will go, but the suggestion has been made that we should have a national newsletter over and above what we have now for our AHBIC newsletter. So we'll see what comes out of that particular subcommittee. So on the biosecurity, the National Bee Pest Surveillance Program is currently being reviewed. This is where we have hives at different ports that are there. They're checked every 6 weeks to make sure they don't have any exotic pests or diseases in them. We also have other people that go out and check the port area. Foreign bees go and look at the flowering plants within a port to see that there's nothing there. And the bees, the samples are taken out of the hives that are at the ports and checked regularly. The bee biosecurity officers were established under the National Bee Biosecurity Program. So each state has one. South Australia at the moment is going through establishing a new one, but previous one did resign, but they're all employed under the National Bee Biosecurity Program. The National Code of Practice was adopted by industry back about 2016. So that's a guide that if beekeepers follow it, they should be able to work well within industry and keep the industry going well. And the BBOs help beekeepers adhere to that code of practice. So they're out there to help beekeepers. They're not there as a regulatory type person. They're there to help them. And as we know, we've been successful in eradicating Varroa jacobsoni from Townsville. That has happened, so we're very pleased with that. The last thing we want is Varroa here in Australia. For our Congress, as I mentioned before, it's the fourth time that we were held an Australian Bee Congress, 8th to the 11th of June at the Rosehill Racecourse in Sydney. We had the last successful one was 2018 on the Gold Coast. In 2022, it will be 200 years since the honeybee was successfully introduced to Australia. So we're celebrating 200 years of honeybees being here in Australia. So make sure you put that Congress date in your diary now, and more information will be coming out, re-registration, areas where people can support the Congress through sponsorships, through the trade show and things like that. So that will be coming out very soon. Finances. AHBIC would like to thank those who have made voluntary contributions as friends of AHBIC. For AHBIC to represent our industry at a national level, ongoing financial support of both the packers and the beekeepers is needed. There has been some confusion between the statutory levy and the AHBIC voluntary levy. So the statutory honey levy is what you pay to help finance certain areas of our industry, things like research and development, the emergency plant pest response deed, the National Residue Survey. So that's a statutory levy, and you have to pay that one. AHBIC is run by voluntary contributions through our friends of AHBIC, situation where people, beekeepers and packers and other people make just contributions so we can run. So if you're not already contributing to AHBIC, I would urge you to do so and keep connected with your national body that represents you. So it's the only way that our industry can work is through the contributions through our friends of AHBIC. Meetings. We have all sorts of meetings during the year. We have Plant Health Australia. AHBIC is a member of Plant Health Australia, so we have input there. We've had bushfire recovery work that's gone on, the levies collection unit, the food import section, where we're still trying to have more food inspected as it comes into Australia. Minister Littleproud and his staff on the various issues that crop up from time to time that affect beekeepers, so we have to go and see the Minister. The Almond Board of Australia, we have a very good relationship with them, and it's only been this past August that the pollination of almonds was in place, and we have a working group that went together to make sure that beekeepers from interstate could get into the almond areas to be able to pollinate the almonds. And I've heard that apparently they get a very good pollination this year. And so, as I mentioned, we had that working group for getting the hives into the almonds so the beekeepers can move in and out without having to come back and quarantine when they got home. We talked with the Australian Pesticides and Veterinary Medicines Authority. They're the people who register all the chemicals, so things like pesticides and that. If there's any problems, we can talk to them. And talking about that, if you have a problem with your bees getting killed with a pesticide, there's a thing called an adverse report that you can send in the Australian Pesticides and Medicines Authority. I urge you to do that and put in this adverse reaction report so that they know that something has happened. For ZANS, there's Food Standards Australia and New Zealand, and we talk with them regularly about that. Coming back to our communications, so AHBIC is working on a new industry communications plan. So we have now established, and you can follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, and Instagram. So if you're into that, log on to the AHBIC sites there. A new website will be up and running soon. If you wish to receive the monthly AHBIC newsletter, which only comes electronically, please send an email to the AHBIC office asking to be put on the list. So that will keep you abreast with what's going on within our industry. Our email address is ahbic@honeybee.org.au, and the website is www.honeybee.org.au. So I encourage you to get that newsletter. As I say, it'll cost you nothing, comes electronically, comes out once a month, and you will keep up to date with what's going on with our industry. So I think that covers the main issues that we have with AHBIC and what we do. So I thank you for the opportunity there. It'll be a bit hard to ask questions, but thank you for the opportunity to bring it there. If you do have any questions, you can contact me directly or contact our CEO, Helen Goodall, at the AHBIC address there, and we'll only be too pleased to answer any questions or give you any help that you require. So thank you very much.